My cheating wife ruined our marriage. My wife, 37F, found a new job about 4.5 months back, and she also made a few new friends. I, 36M, wasn't really fond of these people. They were hardcore feminists, perpetually offended, social, justice warrior types. They're the kind of individuals who will reproach you for opening the door for them or for not doing so. Essentially, you can't win either way. At first, I tried to laugh it off, but over the past couple of months, I noticed extremely unsettling changes in my wife. We've been married for 11 years and have 2 kids, a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son. It kept getting worse. She started accusing me of all kinds of ridiculous stuff, like I was born evil because men historically oppressed women, or that any thoughtful gesture I made, things she used to appreciate, was suddenly fuel for a major argument. It was absolute nonsense. I did my best to be patient. Most arguments ended with me saying something like, "But I haven't done anything wrong to you. The only thing I'm guilty of is loving you." Usually she'd just mutter and leave, only to start up the next day with slightly tweaked accusations. Then about 5 weeks ago, I got a sudden, sharp gut feeling that something was seriously off. She came home late one night without telling me she'd be out. I couldn't reach her phone. She was clearly intoxicated and acted distant and cold. The next day, she brushed me off, telling me I was controlling and reading too much into things. This repeated several times. I attempted to look through her phone, but I couldn't find any definitive proof. I did suspect she was deleting messages. I did see a conversation with one of her new friends discussing how she planned to ask me for an open marriage. Immediately, I realized what my intuition was screaming. She was cheating. In that same chat, my wife said she intended to bring up the open marriage idea on what was then the second Monday in December. Our kids had gone to their grandparents to celebrate Christmas, and we were both set to join them soon. Anyway, during breakfast, she tried to start the conversation, acting as if it was a random idea, just bringing up, "Hey, what do you think of us having an open relationship?" Lucky for me, I was prepared and already recording the conversation. I've read a lot of stories online and understood there's usually no way to salvage it once things reach this point. My best outcome was to exit with some dignity and self-esteem still intact. From that moment on, it was all about protecting myself and our children. I didn't yell, I didn't scream. Instead, I went into a calm but very pointed interrogation mode. She'd been acting confident up to this point, but the second she saw my expression, that smugness vanished. Me. Who is he? Her. What do you mean? Trying to appear innocent. Me. If you want this conversation, don't treat me like a fool. At least be honest. If you can't be truthful, there's no point in us discussing anything. Her. What do you mean? Me. If you lie to me now, we can't have that talk you apparently want. I can see you're hiding something. It's obvious. So who is the guy? Her. I'm not. Me. Oh my god, it's more than one. Her. Me. Stop lying. You've already destroyed my trust. If you don't come clean, I'm filing for divorce right now. No arguments, no debates, just divorce. Got it? She stammered, then admitted to having had 2 one-night stands with guys she met while hanging out with those new friends. She said they were both married men with children. I asked for their names, whether she used protection, etc. Then she revealed she planned on sleeping with a coworker and intended to pursue it because it was good for her and that I had no right to control her. I was floored. I asked about this coworker and got his name, his wife's name. He was also apparently married, but in an open arrangement, which she now wanted with me. She even suggested setting me up with some of her own friends, one of whom she said was really interested. I told her I wasn't into that at all. She did unlock her phone for me, but when she went to the bathroom, I locked myself in my office, and she started banging on the door in a panic. I ran recovery software on her phone, retrieving tons of damning evidence in about half an hour. I also installed a spy app from an online provider. Then I left the office, handed back the phone, and told her to get out. She put up a fight, yelling that I was controlling and oppressive, that I never truly loved her, that she had every right to do whatever she wanted, and she expected me to just accept it, etc. I barely replied. I said little more than single-word answers. Her lack of remorse was staggering. Eventually, I ended up at the front door and stood there silently until she quieted down and left for her parents. On the way down the stairs, I told her she was now single and free to do as she pleased, that I was no longer controlling her, and that my lawyer would be in touch after New Year. She tried to respond, but I slammed the door shut and locked it. Later, I watched her chats with her new friends. They kept telling her she was strong and claiming what she deserved, that my threats of divorce were empty, that I'd never go through with it. You want to bet? Even worse, they suggested that, if needed, she should accuse me of domestic violence. One bragged about falsely accusing her own ex-husband and taking everything from him. Right then, I ordered cameras for my house. I realized I'd have to record everything. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I have never threatened her in any way. After that, she arranged a meeting at a hotel with the coworker. I was speechless. I went online and found the coworker's wife on social media, told her everything, including the plan at that hotel. She thanked me, then ended the call. A few hours later, she sent me a video. She'd gone to the motel and confronted them. From her yelling, it was clear he'd cheated before. "You scumbag! Doing this to me and the kids again? I told you if you ever did this again!" She stormed into the room and caught my wife, half-dressed, screaming at both of them. The coworker's wife slapped my wife and cursed her out. I threw up after seeing that footage. I sent my wife a message saying I'd watched the video and wanted her to stay far away from me forever. It was surreal. She still behaved like this was some contest she was winning. She wasn't in touch with reality, apparently not grasping we were done. I hopped on my wife's family's group chat and announced we were divorcing due to her infidelity. I thanked them for welcoming me into the family, then left the group. I got a few calls and messages from her relatives, but I neither answered nor read them. I simply didn't have the energy. I told my parents everything, and my father sent a message to my wife that she wasn't welcome at our Christmas gathering. I'm at my parents' place now. I let my boss know the situation, and he's given me leave until mid-January to sort my life out. I've been watching my wife's increasingly frantic texts with her so-called friends. It hasn't registered. For her, yet that she lost her family, her marriage is over, and these friends and her affair partner don't genuinely give a damn about her. She's fired off countless messages to me, then showed up at my parents' house demanding we spend the holidays together. My father threatened to call the cops if she didn't leave. I've called around looking for divorce lawyers, breaking down emotionally. I guess I've been in denial until now, but the pain has finally hit me hard. I can't make sense of any of it. Interacting with her only makes it more agonizing. I've responded to her texts only twice. 1. It doesn't matter what you say. I don't know who you are. You're not my wife. My wife would never rip out my heart and soul while smirking. We're getting divorced. I don't care what you want. You have no say or right to demand anything from me ever again. We're finished. 2. Like I said, you're not my wife. I don't know you. My wife would never condemn our children to the misery of a broken home, and you, whoever you are, seem to be proud of what you've done. My wife was loving, caring, thoughtful, my best friend. You are a self-absorbed disgrace. She stopped messaging after that. The pain is indescribable. Sometimes I wish I could rewind, but I can't do that to myself. This Christmas is the worst ever. I ended up telling my kids that mommy doesn't want to be in our family anymore. She wants to be with other people, and that we're divorcing. They were devastated, but thankfully my parents are there to comfort them while I'm a complete wreck. I wish I'd waited until after the holidays to get them directly into counseling, but I let it slip when they kept asking about their mom. I'll never be able to face myself if I went back to her. Her utter disrespect and callousness is unforgivable. I feel completely lost. She still acts like I owe her something. Is she mentally ill? I'm sorry for the rambling, but I needed to let it out. The update 1. Cheating wife ruined our family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to be fine with her behavior? A lot has transpired since my last post. I wish I could take credit for any of it, but the truth is, I've been a sobbing wreck, borderline obsessed with checking my wife's chats with her new friends. What I found was heartbreakingly insane. The final blow was reading how my STBX described me and our kids as a burden. She claimed we kept her from reaching her full potential, that I, as her spouse, was some oppressive jerk who held her back. She gave no real explanation, just sweeping statements. The painful irony is, I've always supported her in everything. I pay most of the bills. Her part-time job at minimum wage couldn't support anyone. I funded every hobby or dream she pursued. Even when she took random useless classes and dropped them halfway, I made sure she knew I loved her and appreciated all she did for our family. If this is oppression, I'd like some of that kind of oppression, please. At some point while reading, I just passed out from exhaustion. When I woke up, 3 of my lifelong buddies, Mike, Bob, and Frank, were in the kitchen cooking dinner with my dad. They'd heard from him what was happening and came to support me. I broke down again until Friday night. Mike, an ex-military guy who lost his lower arm, set up a Zoom call with his counselor who'd helped him in his own dark days. Even though the counselor specializes in amputees, his advice about dealing with trauma was a godsend. He compared my situation to phantom pain, like a part of your identity is removed, yet you still feel the pain. We spent hours talking. It really helped me start crawling out of the abyss. Bob is an executive at some security company. He doesn't share many details, but he's well off. Bob contacted a law firm his company keeps on retainer, and by Sunday morning, I was on the phone with an attorney I'd never dream of affording. Bob was bullied a lot when we were kids, and I often stepped in to defend him physically, so he said it was finally his chance to repay me. Frank is a teacher with 7 kids of his own, a big family. My kids adore him and his wife. Frank's been babysitting and keeping my children calm while I get my act together. Yesterday was eventful. I had an STD screening first thing in the morning. I tested positive for chlamydia. I was furious. My self-pity turned to anger. That was the final straw. I told the lawyer I want to give her nothing if that's possible. The lawyer tracked down the ex-husband of one of my wife's feminist friends, the one who proudly claimed she ruined her ex. It was straightforward. Public court records. He told me his story, how she'd completely destroyed him by lying in court. Now I know precisely what to expect if my STBX tries something similar. I'm ready for war. My lawyer suggested preemptively filing for a restraining order based on the negativity and aggression she constantly expressed about men in general, especially with regard to our son's well-being. We're seeking full custody. I said, do it, so she might be served with that today. I confronted my wife on a Zoom call. Keep in mind, she hasn't reached out at all since she argued with my dad at his house. She hasn't contacted our kids either. On the call, she was dressed up with heavy makeup and a revealing top, clearly trying to lure me into a fight. I kept calm, focusing on the points my lawyer told me to. Our conversation made zero progress. She tried to bait me. I stayed neutral. She eventually got openly hostile, muted me to talk to her friends, I could see her insulting me, and repeatedly used extremely anti-male language. She acted like this was a game she was sure to win. We made zero headway on the divorce. I told her, by the way, you gave me chlamydia, and unlike you, I haven't been sleeping around, so you might want to get yourself checked. She just scoffed like she didn't believe me. I don't know what's going on in her head, and at this point, I don't care. I sent the recording to my lawyer, who was stunned. Everyone thinks my wife is totally unhinged. Since I technically own the phone and plan, I can use the chat logs in court. It's fully legal to monitor my own property. After that call, I hardly checked in on the messages. My lawyer is confident we'll come out okay, unless I've hidden something from her. That's where it stands. It still hurts, but I'm treating it like phantom pain. I've moved on from pitying myself, and I'm going for the jugular. No mercy. I must protect myself and the kids. I'll ensure therapy for them if they want it. My STBX will soon be a memory, and I can start a new life. Edit. I found out that she already knew she had chlamydia and got treatment for it, but never told me. She laughed it off with her new friends. Lovely. Update 2. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to be fine with her behavior? A lot of folks have told me I seem strong or like I'm winning. Rereading my posts, I realize my anger can make me appear confident. The truth is, I'm not. I wish none of this had happened. I wish our family was intact, that I could have a peaceful, predictable life with my wife as our children grew up. Nobody's winning here. My wife derailed, and our life is in flames. I don't understand what's wrong with her. She refuses to see medical professionals for possible mental health issues and just pretends all is fine. She shows no remorse or regret, acts like I'm being unreasonable for not going along with her. She hasn't checked on our kids since D-Day. I'm divorcing her and moving forward because I have no choice. There's no way back now. I can never trust her again. I cry myself to sleep every night, mourning what we lost and the future our children won't have. I'm at a loss for how to answer my kids when they ask, why doesn't mom want to see us anymore? Doesn't she love us? If anyone knows how to respond to that, please share. Every day I wake up believing my heart's already shattered into so many pieces that it can't break further, only to be proven wrong all over again. My STBX still doesn't realize I'm monitoring her calls and messages. She's 100% sure I'll never leave her and that I'm overreacting. She says terrible things about me, our marriage, and our kids to her friends. I have no clue why she loathes us so much. much. My lawyer got a temporary restraining order, but it wasn't extended at yesterday's hearing because there were no new direct threats. My lawyer suggests using the fact she knowingly gave me an STD as leverage to push for an uncontested divorce. I despise the fact I'm forced to regard her as the enemy, always anticipating the worst. If she simply wanted to leave me, that would be painful, but we could possibly separate amicably. So why is she hurting everyone around her as much as possible? I just don't see what she gains. If we go to court, I'll likely have to pay her a lump sum for the house equity and so on. I doubt there'll be alimony. She shows no interest in the kids, so hopefully I'll get custody. But it could be a grueling legal battle. My lawyer wants to offer her a route for an amicable settlement. I agreed, so we'll try meeting my STBX and whoever represents her, hopefully soon. Meanwhile, the ex-husband of that feminist friend, the one who bragged about lying, spent New Year's Eve with me and my kids. It's tragic how the system often punishes fathers with no real proof, taking the mother's word as fact. He's hopeful our new evidence from their group chats will help him. We'll wait before revealing we have them, though. My lawyer's priority is a quick, conflict-free divorce for me. If that fails, we'll do a contested divorce in court. I just want out. Update 3. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to be fine with her behavior? The madness isn't over. My lawyer arranged a meeting with my STBX yesterday afternoon. She came 30 minutes late without a lawyer. Instead, she brought one of her harpy friends. I'll leave that friend's name out. My lawyer told me in advance to stay calm, respond politely, and if she put both her hands on the table, I should shut my mouth completely. They showed up maskless, tried to provoke me constantly, and laughed at their own insults. My STBX clearly still believed there's no way I'd actually divorce her, that only she could divorce me when she wanted to, and that she'd get everything. It was bizarre. Eventually, they ran out of steam, and my lawyer attempted to discuss the actual divorce. She told them I was willing to be generous in exchange for a swift, peaceful settlement, that I'd pay a large lump sum of $60K for the house equity, investments, etc. Before my lawyer could finish, my STBX got excited and was ready to sign right away, saying she needed the money and they were heading to a bar soon. My lawyer asked multiple times if she really didn't want to read the rest of the agreement. She didn't care. She just wanted the cash quickly. So my lawyer brought in an older lady who asked for our IDs, and we each signed 2 copies. That lady was a notary. Once we were done, STBXW and her friend left, forgetting to even take her copy. My lawyer waited until they were out of earshot before saying congratulations. She was shocked at how weird that session was. My STBX can still try to contest it with a lawyer, but the notary's signature makes it a strong case. The next step is a hearing in front of a judge. My lawyer is trying to expedite it. I did hire a private investigator, PI, and just as people on the internet suggested, I now have photos of my wife hooking up with 2 different guys in separate bars the previous day, then going to a motel with one of them. I have a wealth of evidence if needed. As of now, my STBX signed over full custody, no alimony, no ongoing financial support, just a one-time payment of $60K. The only hurdle is finding the money. But Bob offered to lend me the whole sum if necessary. I'm still half expecting her to show up with an aggressive attorney and accuse me of child abuse or domestic violence. My lawyer advises me to keep a low profile, pay for everything I normally do, and not initiate any confrontations or conversations with mutual acquaintances, essentially lie low until the hearing. So that's my plan, hoping it doesn't blow up again. Update 4. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to be fine with her behavior? The hearing happened yesterday, and I'm basically divorced, though. The process will take 4 to 6 months to finalize on paper. Nothing can really change the outcome unless both of us jointly decide to stop it. I'm exhausted. I haven't slept in who knows how long, so I might ramble. My lawyer pulled some strings to get an early hearing, only 12 days after submitting. Things got insane leading up to this. On Friday morning, a bunch of cops showed up at my door with a warrant to search my home. I was terrified for my kids, so I asked if we could go outside while they searched. They said yes. I was shaking, seeing the warrant, but unable to grasp it well. It turns out my ex and her 3 harpy friends took my car while intoxicated and high, crashed into a house. At high speed, got arrested. They all had drugs on them. Some were badly injured, with one in critical condition. The police searched my place because my ex is still officially registered at my address. They trashed the house in the search, but found nothing. I have cameras inside, so I do have everything recorded. I could potentially file a complaint, but I'm too mentally drained to think about that now. Once the cops left, I broke down. My father came to pick me and the kids up, took us to my parents' place. While I was crying on the porch, 26 friends and relatives cleaned and repaired everything in my house. They even fixed random minor stuff. I still can't believe their kindness. I went from suicidal to slightly hopeful over the weekend, thanks to them. They found more narcotics at the main Harpy's house, and her kids were alone. Child Protective Services took them, and her ex-husband, whom we'll call Henry, got temporary emergency custody. He's thrilled. He'd barely seen them in the past 5 years. She's also looking at charges for multiple serious crimes. DUI, child neglect, drug trafficking, the works. Possibly a long prison term. Many on here warned me that my ex might attempt suicide. Sadly, you were correct. She tried an overdose. Thankfully, her dad found her in time because I still had location tracking on her phone. Her father rushed her to the hospital, where she was revived, extremely hypothermic. He's now her guardian, forcibly committing her to rehab. She abandoned her kids, so they're saying she's not rational enough to make her own medical decisions. I was also afraid the guys who beat her up would come after me or my kids, thinking we leaked the chat logs. Henry told me he took care of that by visiting them personally, giving them a choice to turn themselves in or face him. They chose the police route, so I'm no longer worried there. I'm selling my house and relocating. My ex's parents visited me on Sunday. Apparently, she'd lied to them about everything, saying she was staying with me and reconciling. She told them her infidelity was just a one-time drunken slip. They realized the truth after the house got searched. On Monday, she called from jail, begging me to pay her bail, $15K. Her parents refused to help unless she quit drugs, parted ways with her friends, and so on. My lawyer wrote up some documents stating that if I bail her out, the amount would be deducted from her settlement, and her mother would hold the funds in trust until the hearing. My lawyer wanted to ensure she showed up in court. She had no choice and signed. She was out Monday afternoon. According to her parents, she refused to comply with their terms, so she left on Tuesday to crash at some friend's place. She didn't appear in court the following day, so the judge saw everything, from the weekend fiasco to her repeated misconduct. sucked and awarded me full custody. The earlier settlement stands. It only took 30 minutes, and she can't reverse it now unless we both agree, which obviously won't happen. Everyone is congratulating me for winning, but it sure doesn't feel like a victory. I love my wife, or who she used to be, but that person is gone, replaced by someone I barely recognize. There are no winners. We all lost something precious. People act like I salvaged part of my life, but I feel like a double amputee being told I should. Be happy I only lost 2 limbs instead of 4. I have nightmares, can't sleep, and break down unexpectedly. This entire ordeal is painful. Then I got a call from the hospital. My ex was admitted again as an emergency contact still on my insurance. She was assaulted by some of her friends who suspected she gave Henry the logs. She lost teeth, fractured her jaw, and needs a few days observation. Her mom and dad arrived, saying she asked if she could move back in with me. I said absolutely not. Her mom won't give her any financial help unless she stays drug-free for at least a year. She's truly lost everything. I saw a flicker of regret, but it seemed more about losing her chaotic lifestyle. She barely even looked me in the eye, didn't ask about the hearing or her critically injured friend. It's heartbreaking. I still feel protective, but I must prioritize our children. I'm staying totally no contact unless she remains clean for a long time. I just can't manage more of her chaos. Update 5. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to be fine with her behavior? Many have messaged me for an update. I almost posted one yesterday, but felt too drained. I'm pretty depressed and exhausted, sleeping little and having constant nightmares. The good news is my kids are doing better. My dad is an absolute hero. We went to his cabin to do some skiing this past weekend. Me, my dad, and the kids, and it was nice. I'm basically out of contact with my ex. I did talk to one of her harpy friends who'd been in critical condition. She's alive, but in awful shape. The nurse said nobody had visited her in the hospital, and her family refused to come. I worried those who assaulted my wife would come after me, so I asked the nurse to set up a talk with this woman. She actually offered me sexual favors for $20, so that was awkward. I said I'd give her $50 if she'd explain what was really going on. It turns out they're all hard drug users. The ringleader, Henrietta, forced my wife into their circle, and she got hooked on their lifestyle. Soon, she was paying for drugs through sex work. Hearing that was devastating. It explains why she only wanted money from me. It appears they mostly did meth. This woman said nobody visited her because she'd burned all her bridges. She also told me exactly who beat my wife up. 2 guys who thought my wife gave Henry those group chat logs. She still doesn't know I was the one who had her phone data. Henrietta is facing a ton of charges: threats, resisting arrest, drug possession, prostitution, trafficking, child neglect, DUI, property damage, car theft. She won't be getting bail. I keep hearing from people who were in similar situations that my ex might attempt suicide now that her life is in ruins, and sadly, she did try. She texted me a goodbye note about her addiction, how she sold her body, how she let everyone down, saying she was ending it. I had her location from her phone, and her dad found her unconscious on a park bench in freezing weather. He saved her just in time. Now she's on methadone. Her father's been appointed her guardian because she abandoned her children. They committed her to a rehab center for forced detox. I feared those guys who beat her might come after me, thinking she gave Henry the chats. Henry is an enormous, intimidating man who grew up on a farm, so he confronted them personally. He basically gave them an ultimatum. Either they confess to the police or deal with him physically. They raced to the station, so I'm no longer worried about them. I found a new apartment and am moving soon with Bob's assistance again. I'm deeply depressed, feeling heavy-hearted about all this. My friends and family keep me afloat, and I know my children need me. Oddly, discovering my wife's severe addiction has helped my kids cope, because it's easier to say, "Mommy is sick, and it'll be a long time for her to recover," than to explain the rest. Henry and I, along with our kids, spent some time together, trying to build new, positive memories. I think we'll be okay eventually. I'm still grieving for my ex, the person she was. Even with everything that's happened, I don't regret marrying her because without her, I wouldn't have my 2 children, but it's painful to accept she's gone down such a destructive path. This will likely be my last update. Final update. Cheating wife ruined family and Christmas. Why does she expect me to accept her actions? My ex passed away. She overdosed in rehab. We don't know how she even obtained the drugs inside, but somehow she did. A doctor suggested maybe she swallowed a packet that burst. It's unclear. I won't be posting further or answering comments. Thank you to everyone who offered support and ideas.